Yes! Welcome into Sports Bet. Betting Insight today, Thursday, January 5th. Pauly and Teddy, 7 in a row with the play of the day. Let's keep it going. An NFL selection coming up with money time. And we start with the NFL playoffs. We'll get to the Saturday games, Raiders and the Texans, and Detroit and Seattle. Plus, game one of a doubleheader on TNT. Round 3, Harden against Westbrook. Big game breakdown's going to be a doozy. And we have an update on rounding again. We'll get to good story out there. We'll get to that coming up in a second. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. We start in the Premier League, baby. Soccer. Chelsea, what happened? Bad bet, Chelsea. Tottenham gets the big win. Chelsea, the streak is over. The longest single-season win streak English top-flight history. They were tied with Arsenal 2001, 2002, and Sunderland 1891 and 1892. Tottenham showed well, needed it. Top 3 in the table now. 2-0 win over Chelsea. Unbelievable run, but the winning streak comes to an end.
Yeah, and Chelsea, bad bet. I'm assuming they took money, Pauly, because I know nothing about the EPL. I'm trusting you to guide me for this one.
Yes, and it's always good to throw in some soccer there as well. Good match yesterday. Bad for the books. I thought indefinite suspension meant 3, 4, 5 games. Grayson Allen back after 1.
Oh, yeah, and Duke was as low as minus 18, and then it was announced that A, Coach K was in, and B, that Grayson Allen, the 1-game suspension for his, third tripping incident, was enough. Closed minus 21. They won by 53. It wasn't that close. I mean, there's not many college basketball games that are over by the 12-minute timeout of the first half. This one was over by the 12-minute timeout of the first half. It was a Duke 29-11, and Georgia Tech was not coming back. Bad result for the books. Good result for bettors.
Sports Bet, we told you so. 7 in a row. Winner yesterday with Notre Dame. And a lot of money came in on Notre Dame. They went off the favorite. And they, Bray tough at home. And they're tough against Louisville at home.
Yeah, they sure are. And again, Louisville is now 0-6 under Pitino in South Bend. And a ton of fighting Irish money. Notre Dame, they were as high as 2.5 at the open. Closed as 1.5-point favorites. So that's a 4-point move across zero. The Irish did exactly what we said they were going to do on the show yesterday, Paulie. What'd they do? Great free throw shooting team, 88% from the charity stripe. They could handle the Louisville press with all the senior ball handlers, only 12 turnovers. They could hang on the boards. They were +3 in rebounding. They could hit shots against the number 1 defense in the country, 44% from the floor, 41% from three-point range. Bad result for the books. They took a ton of Notre Dame money, and they paid all those bets. They were winners.
This is also bad for the books. A lot of money came in on the Bulls. Cavs bet down from 8 down to 4. No Love, no Kyrie. The Bulls are 5-1 the last 2 years against the Cavs.
And the Bulls are 2-0 since Rajon Rondo stopped getting on the court and started staying on the pine.
Yeah.
Rondo, the last 2 games, DNP coach's decision, and I don't think it's an accident. The Bulls 2-0 straight up. 2-0 against the spread in those ball games. But certainly they have matched up pretty well against Cleveland, although the Cavs, sitting Irving and Love, didn't really bring their A game.
Here's your team, the Greek Freak, with the buzzer beater. The Bucks win in New York.
Oh, they rallied back from 14 down in the 4th. And this was a weird result. I was trying to describe, do we want this in bad beats and bad bets? The game opened Knicks -1, and it closed Bucks -3, and it landed right in the middle. And that tends to be a disaster for the books when a game lands right in the middle with that Greek Freak jumper to win at the buzzer. But it could have been worse if it landed 2 or 3 for the books because obviously all of that Milwaukee money that came in, well, they didn't have to pay any of the late Milwaukee money. They got to keep those wagers. They were losing side. So it was a bad result for the house. It's never good when the game lands in the middle, but could have been worse for the books. And Milwaukee, they're finding ways right now. Rallying again, 14 down at the Garden against the Knicks. This is a team that's starting to find themselves a little bit after losing all of those tight games early.
This is the 4th time they have a home and home. They played the Knicks at home Friday. Remember, they had the 3 straight meetings where they had a home and home against 3 different teams. Bizarre scheduling spot. I'll give you credit. You called this years ago. Rose stinks. The Knicks are 1-12 when he takes 17 shots or more.
Well, the Knicks don't need Derrick Rose to take a whole bunch of shots. And I mean, Rose's prime probably came in his MVP season. That was 8 years ago now? I don't even know how long ago it was. He's a long way past his prime at this stage of his career.
Yes, and confirmed. And by the way, thanks for the follow on Twitter. Rounding again, yes, amazing but true. He won the Super Contest at the Westgate last year, and he took third. Won last year and took third this year.
No, it was 2 years ago that he won. He won last
2
year?
years. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the 2015. He won following the 2014 season. He won, and then this past year he just finished in third. Right? I don't mean to cut you off. Go on.
Yes, no problem. Yeah, but that Jay Kornegay confirmed that you talked about the field of 1,800 people. And this guy bounces back and goes third place.
Sure. I mean, we think about like a Dan Harrington in the World Series of Poker back in
very good.
Where he got the back-to-back final tables. We're like, that's the most incredible accomplishment in the poker history of the back-to-back final tables. And then, of course, our colleague here in Vegas, Steve Fezzik, won back-to-back Super Contests earlier this century, but the fields in that era, 500, 600, 400, the fields that we've seen rounding again come against 1,700, 1,800, and coming away with a first and a third, that's impressive. But you nailed it, Paul. He's following both of us on Twitter. Obviously, he's getting good info. He didn't quite come up the last time when he won. He was 59, 23, and 3. There was a 72% win rate. That was insane. And, of course, we're talking about a guy, his name is James S. He's a government worker for the Denver area. He's something anonymous, and he's just an average guy who's been having pretty good paydays, cashing some NFL tickets. Once again, the Joes beating the pros when it comes to cashing these big paydays.
I like this quote. I chose rounding again because it's the first gambling phrase that entered my mind. No special meaning to me. And a phrase from the movie Rounders, when Worm, played by Edward Norton, says to the Matt Damon character, "At least you're rounding again." That is a great movie, and they might do a part 2 with that movie coming up as well. That's a great story there, and congrats. And again, thanks for the follow on Twitter. All right, Super Bowl odds. What do you think at the Westgate?
Well, I mean, again, the answer is you probably should have bet what you wanted to bet years ago. But in terms of what teams still offer some semblance of value at the current numbers, I guess I'm going to list 3. KC at 10-1. I think they're live. And this is an interesting chart because as the openers from last February, then the numbers after week 1, and then the current numbers right now. So you get a real good assessment of sense of where the markets have moved both in the offseason and during the regular season. But anyhow, the 3 teams that I have any interest in would be Kansas City at this price at 10-1, Atlanta, and again, you're not getting the best of the number, but at 12-1, I think the Falcons are live in a wide open NFC, and I'll take a shot with Oakland at 100-1. Again, it's a long shot, but that's just my take. Who do you want? You want Belichick? You want this Christmas card from Belichick? Look at that. The Raiders or the Patriots, the clear favorite. They've lapped the field when it comes to the odds for winning the Super Bowl.
William Hill put up months ago the New England against the field. Obviously, they took a ton of money on the field. And one spot here in Vegas says the Patriots $1.10 to win the whole damn thing. That's amazing. NFC wide open. I don't think the
Is there anything that stands out to you from those numbers, Pauly?
No, I don't look at that stuff. Yeah. I don't think there's any value.
No, I'm with you. And no. I'm offering opinions on stuff that I'm not actually betting at the current numbers. Let's put it that way. So better for me to shut my mouth.
All right, let's make it 8 in a row. Money time play of the day before we get out of here. We'll start with the NFL playoffs, and we'll get to Harden, Westbrook, game 1 of a doubleheader on TNT. All that straight ahead on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
That's right, the 8th annual SBR Forum Bash will be held at the breathtaking all-inclusive Hard Rock Hotel in Punta Cana on Super Bowl weekend. Join Natalie Rydstrom and the Odds Couple as they mingle with SBR pros and have fun under the sun. Stay tuned for video coverage of Bash activities, including a $5,000 poker tournament sponsored by uwager.eu. Only on SBR, your sportsbook authority since 1999.
We're back on SportsBit Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy. Follow us on Twitter at Pauly Howard, at Teddy_covers. Live odds, sportsbookreview.com. One game in the association, then it's a deep dive with the NFL playoffs. Game 1 of a doubleheader on TNT. What a game. Thunder and the Rockets. Look at this. The Rockets are 8.5, 225 the total. Rockets 15-2 in December. D'Antoni, coach of the month. Remember one of the losses? They blew a 13-point lead with 4 minutes left at home to the Spurs. First two meetings, both in OKC. Thunder won 105-103. Rockets blew that game, blew a big lead late, and the Rockets won 102-99. The Harden Westbrook showcase has fizzled on the scoreboard twice, with the two head-to-heads falling a combined 33 points below the total, Teddy. Why is that?
Well, I mean, when we think about Harden versus Westbrook in this head-to-head matchup, no, it isn't. Neither guy guards the other one. And the number two guards on each team are probably some of the best defenders of their position in the NBA. Certainly the defensive leaders for the two respective squads. Patrick Beverley for Houston, Andre Roberson for OKC. When you talk about the two teams' best perimeter defenders, that's them. Beverly's on the floor because he plays defense. Same thing with Roberson. So you see Harden matched up against a really good defender. You see Westbrook matched up against a really good defender. And lo and behold, these high-flying shootouts, nuh-uh. Look at the graphic right here. Combined, the two guys in the two meetings, 27 of 84 from the floor with 28 turnovers.
Mercy. And by the way, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, well, that's, that's not the head-to-head matchup that people expect. That's it. Go on.
Yeah, the Rockets have been dynamite since Beverly came back, and Westbrook, 31 shots last night in 33 minutes. Only made 10. ESPN Stats and Info tweet. Westbrook now has 4 games this season in which he's missed 20 or more shots. That's twice as many as the rest of the NBA combined, Teddy. Update what we said yesterday on the show.
Sure. Yesterday we were talking about how Westbrook has been struggling, and we're talking about a guy that's had a ridiculous usage rate. A guy who's probably been as physically taxed as any player in the league for what he's been asked to do so far this season. The signs of fatigue are clearly there. The last 3 road games for Russell Westbrook, 25 of 79 from the floor, so less than 33% from the field. 15 turnovers, 14 assists. He's playing on the second of back-to-backs here after a shootout in Charlotte yesterday. Houston, the Rockets are really starting to get respect from the betting markets in a way they weren't a month ago at this time, and they've earned all of that respect, including mine. But this number, man, it's a little bit higher than I expected to see, even given the tough spot for OKC. Well, one thing we've seen from the Thunder, they don't lay down very often.
Yeah, we gave out the over yesterday, too. These totals are too low in these Oklahoma City games. Not to mention, the Rockets, it's Launch City at home. If you're going to shoot 43s a game and they knock them down, plus what Harden, we didn't talk about that because we were off. Harden had a 53, 16, and 17 game. First time in NBA history. They are scoring a ton of points at home. So you look at the first 2 scores in OKC, go, wow, 225. I think 225 is too low.
Given the defensive matchups and the series history, I'm not going to argue that Houston wants to run OKC out of the gym tonight. Whether they're able to do it
right.
is another question entirely.
Right. Very good. Here we go. NFL playoffs. Saturday afternoon, 1:30 Pacific on ABC. The Raiders take on the Texans. Texans 3.5, 36.5 the total. Week 11, it was 27-20 Monday night from Mexico City. Some calls went against the Texans. Osweiler actually played well, and the Raiders, with a fourth quarter comeback, got the W. Connor Cook now against Osweiler. Number 3 QBs obviously don't get a lot of work. Donald Penn, the offensive lineman, said, I hadn't heard his voice in the huddle the entire season. We talked about that on Monday's show. 3 Pro Bowlers on the O-line, Crabtree and Cooper. Cook's winner at Michigan State, Teddy. Can he get it done?
I don't think he's going to be any worse than McGloin was last week. McGloin looked pretty lost against Denver's defense, but Houston's defense is pretty good too. We talk about what happened. Now let's talk about that meeting in Mexico City, because of where I want to start my playoff handicap, I want to go back and look at any regular season meetings between these two. And as you mentioned, Osweiler played well in that ball game. Houston was able to run the football in that contest. In fact, they held the Raiders to 30 rushing yards on 20 carries, and Lamar Cook had a big game. Houston with more than 120. And normally when a team outrushes their foe by a 4-1 margin, they have a real good point spread record. Obviously didn't happen in that first game because the Texans couldn't handle Derek Carr and the passing game. But now it's not Carr, and now it's not McGloin. It is a guy who has 0 NFL experience and has never started an NFL game. And the advantage, obviously, you talked about, they got the Pro Bowlers in the offensive line. They've got elite-level receivers. They've got a strong running back. They don't need great stuff. Jack Del Rio, quote, Connor has done a nice job. He's done a nice job all year with the work he gets, basically none, and the attention to detail. I think he's really matured, become more comfortable in what we're asking him to do. The ball comes out of his hand nice. I think all the signs are real positive for Connor as we go forward. We trust him to go out there and lead us.
And as we talked about earlier, it's the first time since 1966 a guy's making his first start, starting a playoff game. He didn't start in the regular season. So the Texans go back to Osweiler, and his passer rating was 72.2. Only full-time starter worse, Ryan Fitzpatrick. The key to this game, now I think it could be decided with a defensive or special teams touchdown, maybe a key turnover late. But you talked about this, and you were watching the game. When they pulled Osweiler at home against Jacksonville, the place went bananas. It was a huge ovation once they went to Savage. If Osweiler gets off to a slow start, and you know O'Brien's going to be conservative, they will turn on him.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, and that's a question that I have about the Texans. Do we start to think about Houston in the way we think about Cincinnati? Where there's no way I'm laying any points with the Bengals in a first-round playoff game. I don't care. You know what I mean? The Texans have not had a whole lot of success in the postseason. Osweiler was booed off the field the last time he was there. They lost their playoff game at home last year, 30-0. I mean, do they have they can't be laying in the playoffs mentality. And the 3.5, we talked about 3.5, we're starting to see 4s now on Houston. The markets, they just want to bet against Connor Cook. And maybe they want to bet on what they consider to be the number one defense in the NFL. But, Pauly, the Texans really have the number one defense in the NFL?
Yeah, well, much of that is based on slow game tempos. Their defense was only on the field for 950 plays, dead last in the NFL, 73 plays below average. Average game is 64 plays, so the defense was on the field for over a full game less than an average NFL team. Power rating, number 8, Football Outsiders. A good defense, not a great one. Certainly not the number one defense the rest of the media will put out there all week. Big boost, though. They get Lamar Miller back, and this actually could be one of the fastest games in NFL history because both teams just should run it, because why would you trust your quarterback?
But it's interesting to note, that number one defense. You're going to hear the guys talk about the number one defense, and yardage-wise, they are. The number 8 from Football Outsiders, a better assessment of that. It's a good defense. It's not a great defense. But when we talked about that first meeting, remember I said the Raiders were held to 30 rushing yards when Houston had 120 in that contest. They were able to win the game because Carr made throws. Now we look at Michigan State without Connor Cook this year, and that wasn't the only loss that the Spartans had in the offseason. But, I mean, that team went off a cliff once they lost that QB. So you say, hey, here's a college team that went way down after losing their QB. Here's a situation that kind of reminds us a little bit, and we talked about it last week, of Dak Prescott, where you're going in, yes, it's a rookie. You had great success in college. You have a strong running game. You have a defense. You have good receivers. All you have to do is not screw it up. I look at Connor Cook as being in a position that maybe he could not screw this up. And as the Texans get to 3.5 and 4, I'm not excited about laying a price with this team. I'm really not, especially when we talk about those tweets from Oakland, the quotes from Oakland. You want me to read those, Paula? We got the Crabtree and Latavius Murray and Khalil Mack, the leaders on the team, all saying, we're coming to play. Connor Cook will be just fine.
Yeah, Murray, we can't play that way point blank. It's about the effort in Denver, especially in the playoffs. We'll be home watching with the other teams. Mac, win or go home. Time to step up, getting ready to go down to Houston, have our best game of the year. They like what they saw to this kid. He had some swagger when he took the field in Denver.
He did. Again, McGloin was awful.
Sure, he
when
was.
I saw
yes.
Cook come in, it was like, all right, hey, there's hope. Even though there wasn't a whole lot of hope against that defense. That's a really good pass defense. Look at Crabtree, okay? Connor I can't wait to see him play this week. I can't wait to get to practice and do what we've got to do. So, whoever they got up, man, that's who I'm rolling with, and that's who's going to get the work. So, at least Oakland, as a team, they're not saying, hey, it's hopeless. You're not getting the kind of quotes, well, we're going to give our best effort. We're getting the quotes, we're pissed at how we played last week. We're coming to play this week. Connor Cook, he'll be good enough. We'll figure out a way. In my mind, those are positive signs for the Raiders, far more than the Texans. Because, again, remember, Tom Savage isn't available this week. If Brock Osweiler stinks and gets booed off the field again, you know who's going to come in for Houston? Brandon Weeden.
Get out of here. Oh, my God. Mercy. That's unbelievable. What do you think? You know what? It could be 13 to 10, something like that. How do you put up a 36 in today's NFL, though?
You put up a 36 when you have two quarterbacks that nobody trusts and two defenses that are pretty decent. You know, you want over? I don't want over in this game.
There's going to be turnovers. And I'm very confident there's a defensive or special teams touchdown as well.
If there's then you should be playing some over.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to talk you out of it. It's just not a bet I'm looking to make.
All right, we'll get to the Saturday night game, Detroit and Seattle coming up next. And let's make it 8 in a row with the play of the day on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Wrapping it up on SportsBit, Betting Insight today. LiveOddsSportsBookReview.com. One reminder, last year in this round, road teams went 5-0 straight up. 4-0 straight up. This is Saturday night, NBC. Detroit hits the road to take on Seattle. 9-7 against 10-5-1. Seattle's never lost a playoff game at CenturyLink Field. Detroit hasn't won a playoff game since 1992. Stafford, I love this stat. In his career against teams that finished the season with a winning record, 5-45 now. You know, the Titans won in Week 17, so that became a loss, and they went 9-7. Are the Lions a playoff team, Teddy? How the hell did this happen when you look at the defense?
Of course they're a playoff team. Here they are. They're going to Seattle. And all right, so they haven't won a playoff game since 1992. They're due. But you talk about the road teams last year in the first round of the playoffs going 4-0 in the wild card round, going 4-0 straight up. Remember, they only went 2-2 ATS against the closing numbers. The Steelers didn't cover at Cincy against the closer. They were laying 2.5 at the end and won by 2, at least according to my official numbers. And, of course, the Seahawks laying at Minnesota didn't cover the number there. They ended up winning the game by a point on that missed Blair Walsh field goal. So you say, how are the Lions a playoff team? Well, the Football Outsiders numbers say they probably shouldn't be. Defensively, final charts, Lions ranked number 32 on the Football Outsiders defensive. That's dead last in their defensive rankings. Running the football, you know, we say, hey, what's it make a playoff team? You got to run the ball. You got to be able to get stops. Lions number 25 in that regard. And, you know, Stafford, the passing game's in a large sense, a one-trick pony that can usually, has the potential to get you to the playoffs, doesn't necessarily have the potential to advance you. And the market's showing that already. It's been nothing but Seahawks support from the opener in this one.
Well, they're a one-trick pony, but I think they can stay in this game and move the ball on Seattle. I mean, the defense, they miss Earl Thomas big time, except for the layup against Goff in the Thursday night game. Look at this. The last 2 weeks, Carson Palmer, 9.9 yards per attempt, no interceptions. Kaepernick, 9.8 yards per attempt, no interceptions. And they went up and down the field on him, too. That is definitely cause for concern.
It's a huge concern for me for the Seahawks. And again, you look at Seattle, you say, all right, well, maybe they didn't, this is different because it's the postseason and because it's the Lions. It was the 49ers last week, all right? And when I watch Colin Kaepernick marching up and down the field against the defense, that to me is something of a red flag about that defense. And let's not forget, all right, while the Lions been terrible running the football all year, they haven't been able to do it. All of a sudden, we got the great white hope in Zach Zenner, 32 for 136, 3 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks combined. So you look at the season-long stats, and you say they can't run the football. Now you look at Zach Zenner's numbers the last couple of weeks, say maybe they can, because you have to wonder if that Seahawks defense is going to have the old swagger. They're going to have the great crowd behind them. You know, the crowd's going to help the pass rush on third downs, and the Lions will likely have to pass a lot on third downs. But given the recent numbers for that Seahawks defense and the Lions' recent improvement running the football, I know they just lost 3 games in a row against playoff teams by a touchdown or more, and really all of them should have been double-digit loss. They got a BS final TD on Sunday night against Green Bay. They weren't in any of those games with a chance to win it in the fourth quarter. You know, I just worry about the Seattle defense right now. And not to mention that, the Seahawks running game, a team that's been great running the football, they can't run the ball right now, Pauly.
No, can't run the ball, and they can't protect Wilson either, but that shouldn't be a problem here because Detroit doesn't have much of a pass rush.
Yeah, I mean, the Seahawks in the last 4 seasons, They were never ranked worse than number 4 in the NFL at running the football. This year, they're number 25. But the offensive line, it's not like they couldn't run block. They couldn't pass block either. You know, Wilson sacked more than 24 other quarterbacks this season. But yeah, the Lions pass rush, pretty dicey on a regular basis. And in my mind, that's the key to the handicap. If Detroit can put pressure on Wilson, I don't know if the Seahawks get to what the margin that they need to get to in order to cover this number, because I do think Detroit's going to find a way to move the football against that Seattle defense, even though they've had their struggles at times.
Agree with that. All right, money time, play of the day. What a football season it's been. 46-24 on the football season. We are going for 8 in a row. Let's stay with that game. Betting number 103, 104, Seahawks, Lions, over 42.5. When Wilson looks downfield against this defense, he's going to like what he sees. Both teams are going to move the ball in this one, over 42.5. Let's make it 8 in a row and keep it going here with this great run and phenomenal football season. Back tomorrow, we finish the NFL playoffs, and we'll recap everything that happens in the NBA and college hoops. Thanks for watching. Tell your friends. 8 in a row. Let's go. 46-24 on the season. We'll see you then on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.